Good evening. Is Iran on the brink? The death toll, not just in Tehran but across Iran, continues to rise. US President Donald Trump, in a direct message to Tehran, has said the US is looking at very strong options. His words, looking at very strong options. Iran has shot back saying Iran is ready for war but open to negotiations. Situation on ground appears extremely alarming, but the pro-Ayatollah Ali Khamenei protesters, they've also taken to the streets with calls to take very strong action against who they describe are terrorists furthering US agenda in Iran. Is Iran very clearly on the brink? Is the US truly locked and loaded for a strike?
POTUS pushes Tehran red line.
We're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Trump talks war, ready for action.
But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it.
Iran slams US pushing chaos.
We will not limit ourselves to a reaction. We will act based on signs of threat.
War clouds in Persian Gulf. Will US strike Iran? That is a big focus on India First.
And Iran has hit the kill switch on internet. Those tracking it says whoever is trying to use the Starlink connection, according to reports from Iran, they are now being targeted. Conflicting reports on the number of protesters who've been killed so far, but a news agency close to the regime says more than 100 security forces personnel have been killed controlling the riots in almost all the 31 regions of Iran. The head of judiciary in Tehran has called for exemplary action against the rioters. This is happening at a time when countries like Germany, Finland, Canada, they've urged the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei regime to stop targeting protesters and open dialogue with detained demonstrators. Will the US target Ayatollah Ali Khamenei regime, or is the regime regaining control street by street, city by city? Once again, we get you the latest. I'm Gaurav Sawant. There's breaking news coming in an investigation both in Lucknow and in Delhi linked to the Delhi blast case and the KGMU case, the King George Medical University conversion case. There's a shocking link that's emerging in the KGMU conversion case and the Delhi Red Fort blast case. Investigators have confirmed that the arrested resident doctor of King George Medical University, Dr. Ramiz, was in contact with Dr. Shaheen, one of the accused in the Delhi Red Fort blast case. So what is that wider link between a conversion racket in Lucknow and a Red Fort blast case in Delhi? So apparently the two were not only in touch online, the two had had several meetings. Ramiz was on the run for the past 18 days. The man you see on your television screen, Dr. Ramiz, he was on the run for 18 days after a lady doctor made a written complaint against him. He was finally arrested in Lucknow for allegedly trapping a fellow lady doctor in a conversion racket. He wanted a Hindu doctor to convert to Islam to marry him. Apparently, he'd done so even before with others. During interrogation, he has actually admitted that he was in touch with Dr. Shaheen, but claimed that they had only met professionally at medical conferences. Dr. Shaheen is one of the key accused in the November 10 Delhi Red Fort blast. More than 10 people had been killed in the Delhi blast. The lady doctor you see on your television screen, her car was used. There are other links that are currently under investigation. She's believed to be a part, according to the police, of the terror module that was operating from the Al Falah University. She too originally is from Lucknow. It's the same city where Dr. Ramiz was living, working in the KGMU and apparently running that what is being described by the police as Love Jihad factory there. Investigators say they found out that after he went missing on the 23rd of December, Dr. Ramiz actually traveled to Shaheen Bagh in Delhi. And this is where the police want to now find out who was he in touch with at Shaheen Bagh, where did he stay, who all is he in touch with, what is that wider connection. I quickly want to cut across to my colleague Santosh Sharma joining us with the latest on this big investigation. Santosh, what more can you tell us? Dr. Ramiz and Dr. Shaheen, how are they being linked up? What was their connection?
During the investigation of the Lucknow police in this illegal conversion racket, by the call detail, Lucknow police got some clues in the call connections of Dr. Ramizuddin, who is the prime accused of this illegal conversion. A resident doctor of KGMU was having connection with Shaheen and her brother Parvez was the main key link between Shaheen and between the Ramizuddin. So UPATS sought a report from the Lucknow police about the investigation, the preliminary inquiry, what they have found in the illegal conversion. And the most important thing that now the KGMU administration has recommended to probe STF in this whole conversion racket, because after the Ramizuddin arresting by the Lucknow police, several theories were floating out.
No, so just explain this quickly. How is this? Is this a wider conversion racket, or it's a case of a relationship between a Muslim doctor and a Hindu doctor that went sour or went south, and after that there are these allegations of alleged love jihad or conversion racket? Are there others who are involved? Did he mislead other women also?
During the fact-finding committee, what the KGMU fact-finding committee, after preliminary inquiry, they have the doubts that there can be some doctors connected in connection with the Riazuddin. That's the reason the fact-finding committee has recommended the UPSTF investigation to be involved in this illegal conversion. In the preliminary inquiry, they got some connections of a massive illegal conversion because the Pilibhit Maulana was coming. And after the FIR was lodged in the Chowk police station, Ramiz ran to the Delhi, and there he got shelter in the Shaheen Bagh. So we can say there is a big racket that the Lucknow police is probing, but now the UPSTF is going to take up this case as the fact-finding committee of the KGMU has recommended for the UPSTF or any special agency to probe this whole illegal conversion case.
Keep tracking that story. I will come back to you for more. So the Delhi blast and illegal conversions in Lucknow. The link, a preliminary link has emerged, and we'll be tracking that story very, very closely, especially the link even with Pilibhit in eastern UP. And I'll get you more on that story in the coming days. But for the moment, I want to shift focus to our top story. The Tehran traders, protesters and protests over rising inflation and sinking currency then led to massive nationwide protests against the regime in Iran. Reports seem to indicate hundreds have been killed. US President Donald Trump has warned of very strong options. They're contemplating very strong options. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi says Tehran is ready even for war, but open for dialogue. He said that they're even better prepared than they were during the 12-day war. But is the US truly locked and loaded as President Trump had earlier claimed? Or after that massive crackdown, is the government in Tehran clawing back for control city by city? We get you more in this report.
As Iran burns, America is threatening the Ayatollah Khamenei regime with grave consequences. US forces are on standby, and a war may now be closer than ever.
But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination. Some of the protesters were killed through the stampeding. I mean, there's so many of them, and some were shot. We get a full report. I'm getting an hourly report, and we're going to make a determination.
US strikes on Iran are not distant memory. Just 7 months ago, American bombers hit Iran's nuclear and missile sites. Now, Trump says Iran must pay a price for killing protesters. But he's also sending another message.
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called, they want to negotiate.
Talks or strikes, Trump is openly keeping both options on the table. In Iran, the situation is dire. Protests have spread across 180 cities, affecting 1.85 million people. The agitation that began over price rise has become a direct challenge to Supreme Leader Khamenei. Hundreds are dead, thousands detained. Tehran is warning the world to not mistake chaos for weakness.
I also have an advice for the delusional President of the United States. Be careful, and the advice you are receiving about attacking Iran are the same as the ones who told you that Mashhad has fallen. In case of an attack on Iran, the occupied lands as well as US military bases in the region will be our legitimate targets. And with all these clear confessions that you have made about invading Iran, we will not limit ourselves to a reaction. We will act based on signs of threat.
Iran has issued direct threats to American forces across the Middle East.
Trump said if people are killed, the US would intervene. Elements seeking chaos tried to increase deaths to draw Americans into action. From January 10th till today, we are in new phase. The situation is now under control.
Trump believes Iran is already intimidated.
You think they take your threat seriously? Wouldn't you say they do after all of the things we've done? What a stupid question.
Reza Pahlavi, the son of the last Shah of Iran, is openly pushing for regime change.
Iran's freedom is near. We will reclaim our beloved Iran back from the Islamic Republic.
A nation in revolt, a superpower threatening force. With Iran burning and America warning, the countdown to war may already be underway. With Pranay Upadhyay and Geeta Mohan, Bureau Report, India Today.
So close to 600 protest sites across 180 cities in 31 provinces. And this is information that rights activists overseas are actually collating very painstakingly. And they claim more than 10,000 people have been taken into custody and more than 500, it's a claim that more than 500 have been killed already. The Sneam news agency, close to the state, on the other hand, is reporting more than 100 security forces personnel have lost their lives. And today, pro-government protesters took the Inqilab Square, demanding action against the pro-US protest leaders. The question we're asking after Venezuela, is the US locked and loaded for another regime change operation, and this time in Iran? Or has the government in Tehran regained control city by city? Joining me on this special broadcast is Khusro Isfahani, who's a research fellow, lived in Iran till very recently, currently in the United States of America. Adele Nazarian is a senior fellow at the Gold Institute of International Strategy, joins us on the show. Dr. Wael Awad is a very well-respected senior international correspondent in India. Professor Abdul Fazi Beheshti joins us on the show. Professor Beheshti is a professor of international relations at the European institutions. He joins us from Brussels. Professor, welcome. Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar is a top diplomat watching these developments very closely. Adele, what's the current situation in Iran? Are you able to pick up any information amidst reports that the digital kill switch was activated, information flow heavily regulated? But is the government well and truly in control in Iran now?
Hi, thank you for having me on this very important topic. No, there's a lot of mixed signals coming out of Iran. They have pulled the kill switch, so to speak, on the communication networks. People haven't been able to communicate with relatives for days. And they're very worried. I mean, the biggest fear is that, I have friends whose wives are in Iran, for example, or husbands, and they're just worried that they're joining the protesters and having caught up with it. You don't know if they're alive, if they're dead, if they're in hospitals. The confusing thing, though, however, is that airspace was closed for a few days, but apparently it's been reopened. This is sending mixed signals. To be frank with you, I've been hearing a lot of things, seeing a lot of talk on social media from influencers claiming that this is dwindling down, this is coming to an end, the fire is burning out. Far from the truth. I can tell you that this is the only opportunity that I have seen in the past 40 years, to be honest with you, plus, where change can actually occur in Iran. And I do not think that unfortunately, thousands of lives that were lost are going to have been lost in vain. I think they're going to keep pushing the people of Iran to see the change that they really want.
Let me bring in Khusro Isfahani also. Iran's exiled Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi is urging people to remain on the streets, use this opportunity to oust the government. But is the government now well and truly in control of the situation? We are told there have been over 10,000 arrests. There are conflicting reports on the number of people who've been killed and currently are on death row, sir.
The arrests and the violence that we are seeing happening in Iran is nothing surprising to any of us. As your other guests said, we have seen this type of violence coming and going in Iran again and again. We are talking about a nation that has fought for liberty, for overthrowing this regime for 4 decades, and the Islamic Republic has killed them, made them, raped them, jailed them. Iranians are back on the streets fighting unrelentingly. The other night, there were videos coming out of Iran of people doing fireworks in Tehran, literally celebrating the incoming fall of the Islamic Republic. There was a video that showed people outside police stations shouting, "Put down your arms and no harm will come to you." This is a nation that has risen without weapons, with empty hands, and is trying to reclaim its land. The Islamic Republic gone. The world got to catch up with them. Right now, as we speak, videos are coming in from last night in Tehran. People were on the streets en masse. They were unrelenting, they are unstoppable, and they are going to reclaim their homeland.
They're going to reclaim their homeland, you say. Professor Beheshti, protest slogans have now shifted. Initially, they were all about economic grievances. Now, reports seem to indicate that these are direct protests saying death to the dictator, death to Khamenei. Historically, Iran may have tolerated economic dissent perhaps longer than political dissent. But does this escalation, in your view, sir, fundamentally change the regime's response? Your take on what's happening in Iran right now, sir?
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me, sir. I am very glad today conversation with you about Iran insist about destabilize Iran from USA and Israel and France and England and NATO. Today, Iran allowed people coming in the street support the government, support Iran, and support of region, because what is happening in Iran and rest in Iran take very, very dangerous for geopolitics of region, especially in India, in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in Russia, and etc., and China, of course. What is happening in Iran? It is very, very dangerous because the enemy take interest Iran, and very, very dangerous for of the region, the west of Asia, because today the people Iranian shows he is support. They are support the government. They are support the region for against the USA and France and England and
give
NATO.
me a moment. Let me also bring in Dr. Wael Awad into this conversation. Dr. Awad, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran is ready for war but open to dialogue. Will the West agree for talks at this moment, or in your view, is an attack on Tehran for a regime change operation imminent, sir?
Well, I think the American and the European have made up their mind that the regime change policy will continue. The dynasty of the American presidents continued, and the President Trump, who was against any regime change, we have seen his style of regime change by attacking a nation and hijacking the president and his wife in Venezuela, and they think that they are above the international law. What's happening in Iran is definitely an internal affair. It's a legitimate demonstration against an incumbency, against the price rise, against the unemployment, against the harsh economy the people of Iran have been facing. Let us remember, Gaurav, that 1953, Mossadegh, the prime minister of Iran at that time, he was democratically elected by the people of Iran, but it was the United States and the MI6 of England who brought him down, and Israel, Mossad, and then the MI6 and the CIA have played the havoc during the rule of the Shah of Iran in till 1979. So after this 1979, when Tehran changed the embassy of Israel to embassy of Palestine, things have taken a different U-turn of an anti-Iranian regime. And I think ever since then, the anti-Iran has been continued till date. And we have seen over that since 2006, there were lots of demonstration against the Iranian government after the UN imposed sanctions because of the nuclear program. But then there was a little reprieve during the 2015 when the 5+1 signed an agreement with Iran for the nuclear. Then American revoked it and had a unilateral sanction. So all this is exactly replica to what happened to Iraq before the invasion of America.
Very interesting. You should point it out that there's a template which is being followed. Ambassador Sajanhar, is an attack on Iran imminent in your view? Because early January, I think it was the 2nd of January when the US president said the Americans are locked and loaded. But today he says they're looking at strong options. Iran wants dialogue. They may consider that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gaurav, for having me on your show. I think if the attack comes, in my view, it's going to be quite counterproductive. Because number one, we have to see that, United States is far away from Iran. Iran is a big country. Iran is not a small country. People might not know the area is one half the size of India. It's about 1.6, 1.7 million square kilometers. It's a big country also in terms of population. It's more than 90 million people. It's the biggest country in West Asia. And we have seen that, in June, when there was an attack by the United States, B-2 bombers, nuclear installations, etc., it was the protesters. They came in support of the government. Those who were protesting against the government, they came in support because those people are very proud people. They don't want any foreign intervention. Let me also make one or 2 points, meaning I agree with some of the points that have been made by the other panelists, that these protests, in my view, are some of the strongest protests that I have seen. I remember, I was in Iran from in the early 1980s, just after the Iranian Revolution had taken place. At that time, it was the Bazaris, who had come out in support of Imam Khomeini. And that was the turning point that really came in favor of Imam Khomeini. At the moment,
And now it's
also,
just the
because
opposite.
of the economic downturn, the Bazaris have turned against Imam Khomeini and the leadership. But that having been said, I think it is this is the most dangerous protests that have taken place.
You're
But
saying it's the
still,
most dangerous protests that have taken place. Adele, the Tasneem news agency reports fatalities of more than 100. Some reports say 100, some reports say 135. Security forces personnel have been killed while trying to contain these protests. And some courts in Iran and the judge in Tehran has called for decisive and effective measures against the protesters, who Iran's foreign minister Araghchi has described as foreign-funded terrorists, or word to that effect. So can the protests still continue if there's such a massive crackdown that's happening?
That number is an absolute lie. The figures of death are at least in the thousands, and it's going to come out very soon. I do think that at this point, look, there's going to be protesters who are going to be deterred by the deaths of their friends, their relatives. But I think at the end of the day, there was a woman who was in her 70s who was out in the street, bloodied mouth. There's a video of it circulating, real video, not AI. And she said, 47 years I have been dead. And that she's out there. This is her last opportunity. She's been dead for 47 years since the regime came to power. I think that's the driving force. It's whatever little hope is left for the Iranian people, that for themselves or for future generations, they can get back a semblance of what their country was like before the radical Islamist regime took over, that is not even identifiable or in any way commensurable to comparable to what Iran's rich, beautiful history is. And I think that's the biggest disconnect. And the ambassador pointed out the economics.
Yes.
It's all about the economics. Sorry.
No, truly, truly it is. But I want to understand from you when countries, Adele, before I bring in our other guests again, I want to understand from you when countries like Canada or Germany or Finland, they say that they stand with the people of Iran and they want the regime or the government to stop targeting protesters, open dialogue, release the detained demonstrators. Do you actually see that happen? Or in your view, are they still paying just lip service to the people on the street? The people on the street are dying. The world is just watching.
They won't stop. Whatever dialogue they want to have, the damage has been done. I think at this point, to be frank with you, President Trump has proven that he's a man of action. I've been against foreign intervention from the start. At this point, if the people of Iran are calling for aid from outside, aid in any form in the U.S. and Western allied powers, I think they should receive it. But the biggest indicator here has to be, the most important facet is, it cannot target any civilians. This has to be a strategically done operation that will only target the powers that are currently in the seat of power. It has to be to remove the current governance structure. And I think if that's capable, if that's a capability and a possibility, then I think the Iranian people give America or whoever it is the blessing to go ahead and do that, to be honest with you.
Doctor,
I think they're sick
okay.
and tired, fed up.
Okay, Dr. Awad, do you actually see that happen? Because what was also very visible today in Tehran were pro-government protests at that same Inqilab Square in Tehran, where a large number of people chanted death to America and death to Zionist terror. How major is the pushback against what is being seen as a US-sponsored protest, as Iran puts it? The reasons are genuine, whether it's rising inflation or sinking currency or joblessness, lack of jobs in Iran. But how do you see the pushback by the regime in Iran?
Well, I like your question. It's very important. In fact, that is a reflection of the hypocrisy of the United States. Seriously, if they really wanted to have a regime change to bring democracy, look at Bangladesh next door. Muhammad Yunus himself said it was the United States behind it. Do you see democracy there, or you see more extremism? Let's be more. I don't want to be naive, not to compare also what happened in Venezuela and Iran. Look at what happened in Venezuela. They just hijacked the president and his wife. They left the structure intact. While they're in Iran, it is not because of the Iranian legitimate right, as I said, they wanted to support. Nobody is coming to bring democracy to West Asia, by the way. So therefore, they wanted to destroy the infrastructure of the ballistic missile, of the nuclear technology, of the scientists to kill them, the same way they targeted the Iraqi regime. They destroyed the middle class. I travel to Iran almost every year, and I understand the sentiment of the Iranian people. I understand their suffering. I understand there is harsh economy on them. But when there is a foreign intervention in their country, like Ambassador Shajankar said, it is a fact that it will be backfire, especially from those countries who are speaking of democracy when themselves they destroying humanity.
Very pertinent point you raised there, and let me bring in Professor Beheshti from Brussels, for his perspective on this, because human rights groups in the West point to protests in almost all the 31 districts across 600 locations, and participation right now, we are told, cuts across working class, middle class, wealthy neighborhood, traders. How unusual is this in your view, sir, compared to whatever happened either earlier in 2009 or in 2019?
Yes, please, about your guest is very glad about this what is say about Iran is very, very exactly. For regime change in Iran, the USA and NATO and France in England never can change in regime in Iran, because regime is very, very popular, very popular in Iran. Today, the people Iranian shows the support the Iranian Republic Islamic and Trump today. I think we will to be unhappy about Iran, because the people Iranian is very, very clever, is very, very knows what is happening in the region. He knows USA is very, very against Iran, England, France, NATO, because
Interesting
we
point you
never
mentioned,
the
Professor.
enemy.
Oh, it's not correct.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay, Adele wants to respond to you. Adele, you want to respond to Professor Beheshti?
Professor Beheshti, respectfully to all the panelists, there's about 75 to 80% of Iranians who oppose Barzid Hastan to the Iranian regime. Jamhuriya Islami, Barzid, means against the regime in Iran. So I don't know where he's saying there's enough support for them, for the regime. And regarding the gentleman, the other gentleman diplomats, comparison to Bangladesh, I'm so happy you brought that up. Mohammed Yunus never outright said that the US was behind removing Sheikh Hasina. In fact, he said there were outside forces that influenced it. But the reason Sheikh Hasina was taken out was because of a Democratic left-wing aligned State Department under President Biden that purposefully went ahead and gave support through the Pakistani ISI to the Jamaat-e-Islami to run similar protests to what happened with the Mujahideen Khalq that supported what is Khomeini back in the day, same exact scenarios, to join hands together, the student movement, Marxist aligned, left-wing radical Islamist aligned, to overthrow the current leadership. Sheikh Hasina
No, but to
was
stay on the issue of Iran, just to stay on the issue of Iran, Professor
Just wanted to
Beheshti
clarify
says the regime is popular. The people of Iran do not want a US-led regime change operation, and that goes against their pride. Why should they permit the Americans to do that, Adele? Just respond to Professor Beheshti on that.
Of course. So here's the thing. As I said earlier, I think that this has to be, and I've said this so many times for many years, it's in the hands of the Iranian people. If they want to see their government change, their country change, they will be willing to step up against the 20%, if not less, of the country that supports the Jamhuriya Islami, the Islamic Republic of Iran leadership. That 20% is not going to be enough to overpower the 75, 80% who are dying and clamoring for a change. At the end of the day, as I said before, if they want to have outside intervention, that's going to need to be solidified, tangibly stated in whatever channels they can get through. I don't think they want the US to come in and cause more casualties.
Before I bring in Dr. Vailawad and Ambassador Sajanhar, Professor Beheshti, you want to quickly respond? Adel Nazarian's point of view is maybe 20% are with the regime, 80% are against it.
It is false. The majority of Iranians support the Republic of Islamic in Iran. Today, the demonstration in Iran shows what is happening in Iran, because the enemy, the West enemy, and I repeat, USA and England and France and NATO is very, very enemy of Iran, because the Iranian help of Russia against Ukraine. Yeah, he will take in Kine. I don't know in English. Kine.
No, I just, you know, it's an amazing fact that you're sitting in Brussels and you're saying, NATO and America are enemies of Iran. And Adele also has a huge smile on her face. But Professor, stay with me for a moment. Ambassador Sajanhar wants to intervene on this very interesting point, where I take the question, Ambassador Sajanhar, does the US have the capital for back-to-back regime change operations? First Venezuela, then Iran, and neither UN mandated?
No, absolutely. Meaning, this is the point that I was making. You see, you have been having a discussion also on Bangladesh, and whenever in future you have a discussion, I'll be happy to participate in that. But right now, neither in Iran nor in the region nor outside, I don't think anyone believes that the United States or any of the Western powers can come to bring in democracy, because you look at the track record. Look at the track record in Iraq. Look at the track record in Afghanistan. Look at the track record in Libya. All the places they went to established democracy. Have they been? What sort of democracy have they been able to
Democracy is a
establish?
fallacy, my
Second
friend.
point that I want to make, kindly allow me to finish. Second point I want to make is, you see, the problem with the protests at the moment, meaning all uh, 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 establishments, all administrations have problems there. But the problem with them right now is that there is no leader, there is no face as far as all these protests are concerned. And you know what, Mr. Reza Pahlavi, the crown prince, he's been
Yes.
sitting outside, he's been talking that he's willing. He's fishing in troubled waters. He doesn't have any support in Iran. I know that for a fact.
Of course
He
he does.
doesn't even have the support of the US administration or any of the European governments. So,
Okay.
he is just trying to be there, coming to place for the last, he has not visited Iran even once since he left in the early 70s. So I don't
Interesting
think,
point.
a
But,
leaderless
the
movement
point
like
that you've
this.
raised, and let me take it to Dr. Wael Awad in the last 30 seconds that I have on this part of the show. Dr. Wael Awad, some in the West seem to indicate it's a zombie regime in Iran right now, weakened after the 2025 conflict that took place, that 12-day conflict that took place. So now, with a little help from the Americans or Israel, that regime change can truly happen. Do you believe that, sir?
Absolutely not. I think this is the largest demonstration in Iran in the history of the last 2 decades. I believe I have following it since 2009, 2019,
Yes.
2022. And this is definitely because of the economic harsh on the people. And I fully agree on the demand of the people. They deserve a better life. Iranians are very young and energetic. The point, Gaurav, here is very important, that 65 to 70% of Iran are youth, and they wanted good job, they wanted good livelihood. That is for sure they wanted. But do we expect the American to bring that to them? I think let us be. I will be. It look very funny on my part to imagine that America want to bring democracy to Iran, or they wanted to bring. No
Okay.
one should intervene. Let the
Okay,
changes come from
30
the
seconds
Iranian.
that
You do
Adele
not need
wants to
to
come in on
let
that
the
fact.
changes come from outside.
Because where she says that give the people of Iran who are on the streets an opportunity to express themselves, which they are unable to do. Adele, do I understand you correctly? You wanted to come in. Last 30 seconds to you, madam.
Thank you so much. I want to say America's a republic. I need everyone to understand. Republic. Democracy is an aspiration. It has no proven model in modern day. Regarding the
Indian
people of Iran,
democracy, we swear by it. It's working.
Of course, it is working. Of course, absolutely, absolutely. But India is also a republic, largest democracy. I was going to say a constitutional republic. So I want to say that regarding the people of Iran, 1970 and 1979, it was the Democrats, Jimmy Carter, that actually annihilated the government regime, you want to call it, of the
Okay.
Shah. So maybe it's
Yep.
time to have the U.S. intervene again and fix its last
Okay.
mistake. That's what I leave you with.
Okay, will that actually happen? We'll be tracking that story very closely. Adele Nazarian, Professor Bihishti, Ambassador Sajjan Har, and Dr. Wael Awad, as always, many thanks for joining me here on this India Today special broadcast. News coming in, renowned singer and Awami League leader in Bangladesh, Pralay Chaki, has died in police custody. His family is making it out to be a case of death in custody and ill treatment and negligence in custody. Chaki was taken to the Rajshahi Medical College and Hospital on Sunday evening. He suffered a cardiac arrest in custody. He did not survive in hospital is what is being said. He had been in detention since December. He'd been arrested and booked in an explosion case linked to last year's July uprising in Bangladesh. Pralay Chaki was not just a political figure, he was a very well-respected cultural voice in Bangladesh. He served as the culture secretary of the Pabna District Awami League. He was also the general secretary of the Awami Shilpi Goshti and Joint Secretary at the Banmali Shilp Kala Kendra. A senior leader of the Awami League, his party, his family now says he had serious health problems, including heart issues, and the family claims he was denied proper medical attention and care while he was in custody. And this is just the latest in a series of very disturbing incidents that are coming in from Bangladesh. This, of course, is a case of death in custody due to a heart ailment, with the family is blaming negligence. But so far, according to other reports, 12 Hindus have also been targeted and killed in Bangladesh in the past 40 days. That's the information that's coming in, but this is a little different from that. This is a case of Pralay Chaki, a very well-respected cultural voice in Bangladesh, though, and a senior leader of the Awami League who was killed who died in custody. But I want to move on to that next big story we're tracking here on India Today, and that's the Pakistani drones have been seen over the skies of Jammu and Kashmir, especially south of Pir Panjal, in the Jammu, Punch, Rajouri area, and that triggered a massive security alert all along 200 kilometers of the international border, and then about 300 plus kilometers of the line of control south of Pir Panjal. Multiple Pakistani drones were sighted late Sunday night, across not just the IB sector, but also across the LC sector south of Pir Panjal. So they were spotted in Samba sector, they were spotted near Jammu, they were spotted along the border, then Punch, Rajouri, Naushera. They crossed into Indian airspace, they hovered around sensitive locations and then retreated as soon as there was LMG and MMG, light machine gun and medium machine gun fire. Indian forces responded. The anti-drone system was activated immediately. LMG and MMG fire in one of these areas. Now, the drones were actually seen dropping something. Search operations were launched immediately to check either for drugs or arms and explosives. Security agencies say some Chinese grenades and other weapons were also found. Turkish-made pistols and revolvers were recovered in a forested area. Agencies say Rawalpindi is once again trying to revive terror south of Pir Panjal. But the air defense grid was activated. It was battle ready. We get you this report.
The Pakistani terror drones are trying to make a comeback. Multiple Pakistani drones were spotted along the international border and the LOC late on Sunday, once again exposing Pakistan Army's nefarious designs. The drones were detected in Samba, Rajouri and Pooch, brazenly crossing into Indian airspace, hovering over sensitive locations and then retreating back into Pakistan. A clear attempt to probe India's defenses. Indian security forces responded swiftly, deploying anti-drone warfare measures, pushing back the drones which retreated into Pakistan. Search operations were immediately launched to find if the drones dropped some suspicious load. In the Naushera sector, army units opened fire with light and medium machine guns after a drone was spotted hovering over Ghania Kalsia village, forcing it to flee. This sharp spike in drone activity comes just days after a major arms drop was busted in Samba, underlining Pakistan's renewed push to fuel terror through drones, arms smuggling and infiltration. Security agencies say this is no coincidence, but part of Pakistan's evolving playbook, using unmanned aerial systems to destabilize Jammu and Kashmir after repeated failures on the ground. It is worth recalling that in May last year, Pakistan had unleashed a barrage of drones towards India's border states in retaliation for Operation Sindoor. Not a single drone succeeded in causing damage to Indian military or civilian infrastructure, as India successfully defended its airspace. Once again, the message is clear. While Pakistan continues to export terror, the Indian Army remains fully prepared, alert and capable of countering Rawalpindi's misadventure. With Ashraf Wani in Srinagar, Bureau Report, India Today.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just addressed the Viksit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue. The Prime Minister invoked Swami Vivekananda on his birth anniversary. He's called on youth, he's called on India's youth to live with the India first mindset, the nation first mindset, work for the betterment of our society and our country. Listen in.
साथियों, आप सभी जानते हैं कि आज स्वामी विवेकानंद जी की जन्म जयंती है। स्वामी विवेकानंद जी के विचार आज भी हर युवा के लिए प्रेरणा है। हमारे जीवन का लक्ष्य क्या है? पर्पस ऑफ लाइफ क्या है? कैसे हम नेशन फर्स्ट की भावना के साथ अपना जीवन जिए? हमारे हर प्रयास में समाज का, देश का हित हो, इस दिशा में स्वामी विवेकानंद जी का जीवन हम सभी के लिए बहुत बड़ा मार्गदर्शक है, प्रेरक है। स्वामी विवेकानंद का स्मरण करते हुए हर साल 12 जनवरी को हम राष्ट्रीय युवा दिवस मनाते हैं और उन्हीं की प्रेरणा आज 12 जनवरी को विकसित भारत यंग लीडर डायलॉग के लिए चुना गया है।
Arise, awake and stop not till the aim is achieved. Take culture and science hand in hand for a Viksit Bharat, for a developed India with that India first, the nation first spirit. That is all I have for you on this India First special broadcast. Many thanks for watching.